Stop using church intimidation, control and manipulation. Jezebel and all them spirits fall back, not trying to hear it. Go with Jesus, walk in peace. On your pew can sit that beast that we're fighting in the world. I'm that JC Supergirl, Jesus Christ, belt of truth, arm of God, I'm slaying you. Power of the word, two-edged sword. MC Heaven rocks for her Lord. Thought they crept in unaware, didn't see the gatekeeper standing right there. Not getting down with your tactics, undoctrinal practice.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Barakatha. Peace and blessings. Welcome again to the Crystal Jones Show. It's the show that's all about life's balance. I'm your talk show host, Crystal Jones. Thank you for tuning in today. I greet you in the name of Ahaya, Bahashem Yeshaya, Wawarak Kwadash. Let me tell you how you could watch this show every Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. on bronxnet.org, channel 951, 2137 on your cable channels, the Inspire channel. Also, you can check me out on YouTube, the Crystal Jones TV show. Okay. Also, share, like, and subscribe my videos. On Facebook, go to Crystal Jones Pictures and Videos. You can check me out there. Also, on my Instagram channel, The Crystal Jones Show, and HebrewConnect.tv. Okay, so we were talking about the past couple of weeks. We were talking about in the Bible how Moses was going to be on the scene as the next leader of the Israelites, right? God's people. So what we're seeing is that Moses had a lot to go through before he actually became the leader. For one thing, um, there was a hit put out, so to speak, on him as a child. Um, the the Egyptians didn't like the fact that the Israelites were growing. We were growing as a people. We were multiplying and everything. So the Egyptians were afraid that we would outnumber them. And then if war or something came, that maybe we would side with the enemy. And now this happened because the leader that they now had no longer knew our forefather Joseph, who had been prince over Egypt and had saved uh, many nations from the famine that was in the world at that time. So the once Joseph and his family, his brothers, his fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 brothers, they had all, died and gone on. And so now we're seeing what happened after Joseph and his brothers died. By the way, that's how the 12 tribes were formed through him and his brothers. They made up, the 12 tribes of Israel, of whom we are today. I always share with you who we are. Okay, the tribe of Judah is basically the Negroes today, right here in this country, right? So even though, they give us other names, you know what I mean? They keep changing the name around, colored people, this people, that people, the other. All right. The tribe of Reuben is basically the Australian people who, are of color. All right. The tribe of Gad, which would be the North American Indians. Okay. They were here before Columbus ever came, because when we got scattered in 70 AD, when Vespasian and Titus had ran our people out of Israel, we fled to the other areas of Africa. Okay, so our people went to all over the earth. I always tell you to, read Deuteronomy 28. That tells you everything, and you'll see nobody else fits those curses or anything like that but us. All right. So then you have the tribe of Asher, which would be the Colombians, Brazilians, people of that area. Naphtali is the Isles of Hawaii, the Pacific Islands, the Filipinos, the Vietnamese. Tribe of Manasseh is the Cubans. Simeon is the Dominican Republic. Tribe of Levi is the Haitians. They were our priests back then when we were in our homeland of Israel, right? Issachar is the Mexicans. Zebulun would be Panama, Costa Ricans. Okay, Ephraim, Puerto Ricans, Benjamin, the West Indians, right? So, those are the tribes. Those became, the 12 tribes. Okay. But we were scattered to other nations, and this is why we don't look the same anymore. So, anyway, at the time that we were coming out of Egypt, the Lord was going to deliver us because the Egyptians decided that they were going to keep us in bondage. And the Lord didn't like it because they were mistreating us, a lot like how slavery was here in America. Just beating our people, treating them bad, and all of that kind of stuff. So the Lord heard our cries, and he said, I'm going to deliver you. So he sent Moses as a deliverer, but Moses' upbringing was very tough in the beginning because they had put a hit out on the young black males, the Israelites, right? Kind of similar to what goes on today, right? So what happened, his mother and his sister hid him in a little boat. They made a little boat for him and whatnot, sent it down the river, and the Pharaoh's daughter fell for him. So she brought him up as her own child, but his mother was the wet nurse, and his sister, they took care of him and whatnot. So he learned who he was. He knew he was Hebrew. So as time went on, he, when he got older, he came back to visit the Hebrew Israelites, and he got into a fight with somebody who was an Egyptian that was trying to do something to one of the Hebrews. So Moses didn't like it. He got into a fight with him and wound up, in the midst of the fight, the guy wound up dead. So they told the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh, was after Moses. Moses fled. He winded up going to a Hamite. He wound up ruling over some of the Hamite nations of people. All right. And so he was like their king and whatnot for quite some time. And then after a while, they put him out because they realized he's not a Hamite, he's a Shemite, right? So they got mad. The queen there was like, he's not a Hamite, he's a Shemite. So they put him out of there. And this is when he met his father-in-law, and his father-in-law finally ended up, allowing him to be there with him and his family. And Moses wound up marrying the daughter, okay, Zipporah. So now we get into the part where, as the Lord is talking to Moses, now Moses is grown and everything like that, and the Lord is talking to him, telling him, I want you to go and tell Pharaoh and them to let my people go. So they were asked. So Moses, of course, asked, well, who should I say you are? So he said, tell them that I am that I am, meaning Ahaya Ashar Ahaya, as you hear me say many times. I am that I am. That's the Hebrew, meaning of it. So we're going to go to the book of Jasher, the 80th chapter, real quick. And we're going to read from the 32nd verse. And it says, also men and beasts that were found abroad perished of the flames of fire and of hail, and all the young lions were exhausted. And the Lord sent and brought numerous locusts into Egypt, the chassel, Salem, Chargo, and Chagoli, locusts each of its kind, which devoured all the hail that was left remaining. Then the Egyptians rejoiced at the locusts, although they consumed the produce of the field, and they caught them in abundance and salted them for food. So God is punishing these people, but they're kind of taking it lightly. And the Lord turned a mighty wind of the sea, which took away all the locusts, even those that were salted, and thrust them into the Red Sea. Not one locust remained within the boundaries of Egypt. So, as we go on in the story, we're going to see the many works that the Lord brought on this nation of people who were against us. Now, if you listen to some of the curses that were brought upon them, it kind of reminds you of things that are definitely happening in the earth today due to what happened to us when we fled, the treatment that we got when we fled, when we crossed the Atlantic Ocean by being kidnapped. Okay, the different things, the millions of people we lost in the ocean that, couldn't take it no more because they had us all on top of each other on boats, laid out. Like, I don't even know what they were thinking to do that, but this is the treatment that we were given, and then brought us here. And even though they lie and try to say, well, y'all were indentured servants, no, we were not. We were brought here as slaves. We were forced to come here as slaves. Okay. So, this is this, it looks like the same type of thing again, right? So at this time, the Lord was developing Moses so that he could be a leader, so that he could lead the people out of Egypt, right? A lot like what God is going to do in today's day and time. Eventually, he's going to lead the 12 tribes on out of all of this nonsense that goes on in the earth, because Christ will return to the earth, okay? And he will set up his kingdom, and he will reign and rule as priest and king, as the Most High meant for him to do. He is the Son of God. So when he, during that time when we're getting ready for Christ to return, a lot is happening. A lot is happening to our people, but it's all scriptural, it's all prophetic. So a lot more is going to happen, but eventually we are going to leave Sodom and Gomorrah. This place is, you can do anything mostly here now, right? So eventually this is going to end, and we are going to have to go back home to our homeland, and the Lord is going to lead the way. So this was just a little bit of part 10 of Moses the new leader. I'm going to, in forthcoming weeks, be continuing to tell you about the story of Moses and different things that he had to go through, before he actually became the leader of the Hebrew people, the Israelites, to lead us out of Egypt to go to Canaan, which is today's Israel. All right. But now today we do have a guest on the show. So we are going to introduce our guest, but first we're going to have our health and wellness tips. All right. So for our health and wellness tip, we are going to suggest to you, consider starting a food bartering group, because you're hearing that the dollar, everything is going to go digital. There really is no more money. Okay. They're kind of, printing up things, and you're I'm sure you all are aware that they plan to go digital this year, starting this year. And of course, that's to be able to control everything that you do. Okay. So we're going to have to start learning how to barter. Okay. Because when there's no more money left and it doesn't make sense to use money anymore, that's what's going to happen. We're going to have to barter for food. Okay. Also, the business tip is do indoor events, like how to barter for food. There are different things we could do. Before we used money, come on, y'all, we used to sew things and whatnot, and you know, cook, and different things like that. With it, that's really nothing new. I mean, we may not have had to do it in our day and time, but it's been done before. So we need to start thinking about that, and stop playing it off like the trucking companies aren't closing down, because they are. That food is becoming very scarce in many areas. Okay, and soon it will come to a neighborhood near you. So we got to stop playing it off. Like I keep telling you all, get that pantry ready. Start stocking up. You could start buying soup, um, beans, all kind of dry foods and whatnot that, you could eat. Because if the grid goes down, with these wars going on, Eventually war will touch these shores. You see what's going on. You see what's in the mix of all that these people are trying to do now here in the end time in the name of, whatever they want to call it. But we know that this is of biblical proportions. So we got to act like we know, and we got to get together with our churches, our families, our people, and let's start or continue to prepare, because if that grid goes down, and there's no heat, no hot water, and all of that kind of stuff, we got to start knowing what to do, because it's coming to a state near you. Believe it. All right. So today we're going to move on. We have a guest. He's not new to the Crystal Jones Show. He's a friend of mine. We grew up together in Mount Vernon, New York. And so he's back again with the Hero series. He's the author of A Basketball Hero is Born. Now, this gentleman has written, different books for the education and the uplifting of the Black community. And I'm so glad, I'm so honored to even know him, that God has blessed him to use his gift to uplift our people, especially in a day and time like today. You see what's going on. All right. So at this time, we are going to introduce to some, but many of you still know him. He's been on this show many times before, and will continue, to come on the show and show us what God is doing in his life. And so I bring to you Mr. Gerald Hoover. Gerald, welcome again to the show.
Good evening, CJ. How's it going?
It's going good, going good. Always a pleasure to see you again. I was telling somebody today about you, a coworker of mine, how proud I was of you, and how, how the Lord is doing great things in your life as well. And, we always appreciate you, what you're doing, because it's very needed in our communities. So tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you.
Well, before we do that, I was listening to you speaking about Moses. Well, I want to say every biblical or uh, sanctified, I want to say, from our text is my favorite. Okay, so I don't, so I, they're all my favorite. From Jesus to, what I mean? But no, I was saying from Adam to Jesus. You feel, but first Adam, second Adam. But Moses, for some reason, fascinates me on levels of sight unseen. I mean, his life, what he done, just he's just a fascinating character, and what and what his whole life was about. And so, so I was riveted, because I've heard the stuff before because I studied them, but it's always good to hear, to sit back and be taught and tutored and be fed. So I want to just put that out there first. What I've been up to is, doing what God is blessing me to do. As you mentioned about me being a writer, of course, my first book, which turned 30 years old last week, My Friend, My Hero, that came out 30 years ago. Unbelievable. 30 years ago, that thing came out. And I marvel at it because I started it in 1983.
Wow,
I started that book in 1983, and it didn't take me 8 years to finish the book. It took 8 years to get it published. Or I'm sorry, 8 years from the time I started sending it out to publishers. So I started in 1983, October 17th, and I had, as I talked about before on the show, I had no desk. I had nothing to really write with, no typewriter or anything. I said typewriter, not computer, typewriter. I didn't misquote myself, and I had to write by hand. The first 9 drafts by hand, which I think now is just like, how did I do that? I know how I did it, but I'm just talking about just in thinking about it. I'm like, I wrote the first 9 drafts by hand. I literally wrote by hand from page 1 to page 200 or something, and well, I did it 9 times because I had nothing to write with, and my premise was to help save someone, including myself,
Right.
and but with the elements that was going on even back in those days. But,
Yes.
but once I got it typewritten, where I was able to put it into a manuscript form in 1984, the rejection started coming, and I had over 40 something over a 9 year, 8 year period. So again,
Wow.
I started in 83. It got published in 92, and my son was 1 years old at the time. He's now 31, and that is absolutely
Wow.
yeah. When I say bananas, it's bananas, and
Definitely.
yeah. So my friend, my hero's grown, but from there, so much have happened. So much has happened. I developed something which I call the hero book series, and I make
Yes.
sure the word book is in there because just saying hero series is okay, but you're not getting the true essence of what this is about. This is a hero book
Book
series,
series.
and the
Yeah.
one thing I love is that when you see the cover on well, of the books, it's not men wearing capes, costumes, armor, shields, carrying a sword. No, these are regular young men and women, because women my characters as well, going about life, doing things that's helping them to do what needs to be done. And I love that because when people read it, they're seeing themselves.
That's
Now, of course, it's a black man's telling a story in the urban area, but it's for everybody.
right.
I don't say blacks only. This is not discriminative.
Exactly.
And because my books are in China, they're in Germany, they're in Italy, they're
Wow.
in Jamaica, they're in, I think, Australia. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So it's gotten around, and
Yeah.
but so my book's about a young man. At the time when I started it, telling a story about growing up in the projects and trying to make decisions on left and right. And trying to trying to make do with what was presented to him, and the fact that I was able to come up with a sequel, right? A Hero from a Hero 2, and then a Hopeful Hero, and then the last one of that series called Hoop Hero. Then not to stop there, but to be able to think, all right, how can I grab young men and women that are in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, up until, let's say, maybe like the sixth grade. How can I do that? Someone had told me, well, why don't you write a book about kids? And at first I resisted it. And I was like, nah, I want to do that because I'm thinking if I did that, I would be uh, letting go. My original mission was to help young men and women, teenagers, young adults, and that sort of thing. And
Right.
I thought about it further, and I said, wait a minute. When I first started my book, the characters were 18 years old and up.
Okay.
They had to be born.
Yes.
They had to have a prior life. So it was like a metamorphosis. That's when I developed a basketball hero is born.
Oh,
Now every title is going to have the word hero in it because it's called a
right.
book series. So every title has the word hero. So coming up with a basketball hero is born. Basically, what I'm doing is I gave life to Bennett Wilson, who was the fictional character growing up in Mount Vernon, and I made him a
Okay.
child. He was born. All
Okay.
right. And he was 4 years old when he got his first basketball. Then he was 6 years old. Then he was, you know, 8 and 9. So what I'm doing is I'm taking steps by going, well, I call it the ultimate prequel because I'm going from
Right.
my hero to a basketball hero's born. Then what's going to happen next before Thanksgiving? Hopefully, a hero. Let me see, a hero's pride and joy. That's the second book,
Ah.
and then the other one is a hero shot, which is a basketball shot, and then the other one I take a hero's perspective, something like that. I know I have the word hero in those four. Now, what I did too, CJ, is a basketball hero is born would be like say for pre-K, first grade, somewhere around there. Then
Right.
uh, uh, um, the hero's pride and joy would be older grades, up to third grade. Then I'm gonna have some
Okay.
and sixth for I'm so for third and fourth. Then I have some fifth and sixth. But what I'm going to
Okay.
do is those four I'm building up, but also I'm going to build across.
Mm,
So after I'm done with those four books, then I'm gonna have something that's gonna parallel with a basketball hero's born, and then I'm
okay.
gonna have heroes pride. I mean, a pride and joy. So the objective is for have young men and women, especially of color, to
Right.
be able to grow up with a book, a character that they can relate with,
Definitely.
grow up with.
Yeah.
So by the time it's all said and done, God willing, it'll be like a pyramid where it'll go from several books at the bottom, several
Mm-hmm.
books at the second tier, a few at the third tier, and then the fourth tier. I may just have one or two, but then that will morph you right into My Friend, My Hero. So you'll be able to read that as you get older, and then of course the ones that go behind that. I mean above that.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm not surprised though that you wrote about the basketball because Mount Vernon High School, Lord have mercy, we had the number
Come
one
on.
basketball team forever.
And we just won a championship last year.
Yeah, yeah.
We just won the championship. I believe that's number 27, 28. So the tradition is there. We have I believe 10 or 11, 10 former Mount Vernonites that made to the NBA. But
Yes.
we have like dozens that have either tried out or been drafted. But
That's right.
but a lot of them that didn't make it to the NBA ended up going overseas to make money. And
Yes.
Kevin Jones is in Russia now because in Russia now he just had
Oh,
he just had 50 points about a month ago. His brother sent me a clip. His brother Gerard,
wow.
that's my guy. He sent me a clip, and so Mount Vernon is doing it. And I'm also doing a documentary on Mount Vernon basketball called Four Square Miles to Glory,
Oh yeah.
and prayerfully that will be out sometime next year. That's going to be a powerful thing. So I'm giving you the history of Mount Vernon basketball from beginning to even now. So
That's
I'm doing this
good.
from So I'm doing this from a film perspective, but the written word, right, is so important, and so many things get excused from that. Now because I even heard you talking about being about digital. The digital learning to me
Hmm.
isn't helping our young boys much
Okay.
because to me now okay let me backtrack. It helps if you have foundational learning. Okay,
Right.
If
Right.
you know how to pick up a book and go through a book and read it and look through either a table of contents or look through a chapter or know how to actually read a book or read
True.
a textbook or read a storybook, then okay, if you want to go digital, hey, you just enhanced yourself. But to me, if you're going to
Hmm.
go from birth incubator to just digital, to me you're losing so much because
Right.
to me, I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm saying this, I'm biased as a writer, but I'm being honest when I say this. There's something about using the five senses when you're learning.
True.
Like there's virtue. It's been studies on this that there's virtues in even touching a book before you read it.
Mm.
I guarantee you, there are a lot of ministers that want to preach and touch the Bible
Hmm.
before they read it, before they did things, and and I know they got virtue from that because it's a
Right.
matter of making a spiritual and physical connection with what you're about to share. There's
Right.
virtue in that. So, but there was a study that talked about getting innate knowledge just by touching the book. And to
Mm.
me, there's something about touching it, smelling the pages, seeing the pages,
Mm.
feeling pages, and then even if you read it out loud, there's something to
Right.
that. But when everything is just digital, touch this, to me, there's no foundational learning. And
Right.
too many of our young boys of color, particularly, are graduating high school when they do
Hmm.
graduate with third, fourth, and fifth grade reading levels
Wow. Yes.
and no marketable skills.
True.
That is a phenomenon to me because it's like this is happening year after year after year after, and there was even a situation where it happened in Baltimore about 2 3 years ago,
Hmm.
where it was a young man that was getting pushed through the system, and it wasn't for his mother like doing some investigating.
Hmm.
he had like 3, 4 credits his in high school,
Mm-hmm.
but they was gonna make him like I think he was ranked number 67th in his class.
Yeah,
They was gonna push him through the system.
that's what they do.
He had like 3 or 4 credits for 4 years. I'm talking now.
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 credits for his 4 years of high school, and they was gonna push him through, and then say he was ranked 67th in his class.
Yeah,
Who does that?
they do that though. They do that with the even with a lot of the athletes. Especially when we were coming up, because I, ran into one of the gentlemen that we grew up with, and he told me that happened to him in baseball.
Yeah,
It happened to him. They just pushed him through the system.
but
And
the problem now is that there's supposed to be safeguards against that with
hmm
athletes, right? But the problem is that if you're not an athlete and you don't have a marketable skill
hmm
to make money or doing certain things, you're not going to be able to survive like that. And I mean, matter of fact, look at this. And I'm not into conspiracy. It's not about that. I'm
no.
looking at facts, sight, and seen. If
hmm
you look at any metropolitan area, you can go
hmm
to Charlotte, North Carolina, or maybe not Charlotte. Charlotte, yeah. You go to Philadelphia, New York. You go to Washington D.C. may have it, and Atlanta may have it, where you have men of color, black men,
hmm
going to work in those metropolitan cities
hmm
with suits and ties on. Now I'm saying ties because, but for everybody that says, well, people don't wear ties anymore, you look around certain areas, you still see white men wearing ties, and
hmm
those, and by and large, are a lot of the men that have power. Or they're not wearing suit and ties; they're wearing collared shirts with jackets,
hmm hmm
presenting something. You seeing a lot of black men, and I'm not against this because I'm all for it. But you see a lot of black men wearing labor clothes,
hmm
wearing maybe in construction, or they're doing
Right.
some sort of something with their hands. Okay,
Right.
I'm not against that. I'm not against earning your money, but
Right.
don't just put me there, right? And it was something that the former governor Cuomo said that I thought that was so powerful and so profound. He said, "Why is it that black men, and I believe Hispanic men too, but I know when I heard the word black men and my ears perked up." He said, "Why those only have why do they have jobs only where it's labor? You right, right? You know what I mean? Where they couldn't work from home, like he said it's during the pandemic,
Okay.
where a lot of them didn't have jobs working from home. A lot of us didn't have jobs working from home,
Right.
right? They had to go to work, but if work was shut down, there was no work to go to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, and I'm thinking, but it was in my mind before, it was in my spirit before. I'm like, all right, I want to go downtown to New York City, and I want to walk around, and I want to see how many black men I see wearing a suit and tie. And you may
hmm
say, well, why are you saying that? Because I want to see how many black men are working in those offices. And I'm not
Right.
talking about doing security,
Right.
okay? I'm talking about being a doorman, which is money. Don't get me wrong, CJ. I'm not against those type of jobs now.
Right.
I'm not but don't only put me there,
Right.
okay? How many men got a card where they can swipe and go up to the 10th floor into an office building? I mean,
hmm
I don't see that many men doing that, and so if you don't see too many men doing it, you won't see too many young black boys seeing that.
True. That's true.
They won't see that
That's true.
as a viable option to say, okay, wait a minute, that person wears a suit and tie. Where's he going? What does he
Yeah,
do?
but that's true, but it's set up like that. Because if you think about it, our people are still at the bottom. As far as we have a lot of successful of our people, but we still have a lot that are in the very poor, on the in the very poor level of being there. We have a lot of our people still living in, like, what I mean, what they would call, the ghetto, so to speak, because that's what they can afford. Because when you live in the ghetto, they don't care about your schools too much. They're not going to send you the best teachers or anything like that. You when you read the news articles every day, you see the crazy things that go on in those schools. And a lot of those places are schools where, you know, these kids don't have anybody to really vouch for them. So they don't have those same opportunities that, you know, middle class whites, or even those who are called middle class blacks or whatever, but they don't have those same opportunities because they're not getting that same education.
I'm gonna hit you with something.
Very, very rare.
CJ, I'm gonna tell you something that was deep. We know Silicon Valley as, like, for the most part, the birthplace really of the internet in terms of like where it made the boom out there in San Jose, that area, right? I
Right.
read something that messed me up. No, I'm sorry. Either I read it, I think somebody sent it to me. Now, of course, if you go to schools in New York City but basically anywhere, and you're going to see computers, laptops all over the place, right? Laptop on the desk,
Mm-hmm.
laptop. Learn by pressing the button, press a button, press a button, press a button, whatever. Pass, fail, press a button, pass, whatever. Silicon Valley still does treehouse learning.
Mm.
That's the kind of contents with you, meaning they still use physical books.
Right.
They
Right.
use
Yes.
physical books to learn.
Right.
But
Right.
yet, you put the digital crack in our neighborhoods so we can
Mm-hmm.
learn by pressing a button. If your brain isn't being exercised by reading, writing, figuring things out, processing information, then it's not going to work like that. It's the same way an athlete. If you call yourself a world class athlete and
Mm-hmm.
you're not working on your body, then you're not going to be a world class athlete anymore. You're going to
Right.
be a former athlete.
Right.
If you're not doing certain things to feed your brain
Mm-hmm.
stuff where you're
Mm-hmm.
stimulated or what have you, then
Mm-hmm.
guess what? The brain's gonna flatline. This is why it's so dangerous to when kids are sitting around doing this for 7, 8 hours a day,
Right.
because all you're doing is flatline your brain. I don't care what nobody tells me about or that helps a child. It doesn't help a child do nothing,
No.
anything. It doesn't help a child do
Mm-hmm.
anything. If you're doing this for 7 to 8 hours a day, up
Mm-hmm.
until past midnight, and you go to school sleepy because you couldn't
Mm-hmm.
function, then you're not doing anything. And then if your mind is so stimulated that is used to everything jumping around, jumping around, jumping around, jumping around. If a teacher is telling you A, B, C, D, E, F, G in a monotone voice, you're going to sleep.
Right. That's true. That's true. But then you remember, who are their parents? A lot of times, if these kids are, you know, in that situation, like I said, we still are at the bottom. It was designed like that in this country. Remember, our people were brought here. Well, they were forced here for slavery. So remember, they brought other nations here and whatnot. And if you think about it, in our communities, who has most of the businesses? It's not us. It's not us, because they have what, redlining and all of this kind of stuff for the ones that do try to get a loan or business and stuff like that. So people come here from other nations thinking that black Americans are lazy people and stuff like that, but we're not really afforded the exact same opportunities, or the opportunities that are there are more hidden from us
CJ,
because
no, CJ, I'm gonna you with something that's deep.
mhm
Now, I admire what they do because I have a lot of friends that are Hispanic, right, or
mhm
Latin American, or what have you.
mhm
But if you look at supermarkets just in the Bronx alone, I don't care what neighborhood you go to. In the Bronx alone, it's Hispanic owned and operated, from
right.
the owner to the cashier who can speak very little English.
Mhm.
And my issue with that is it's not them doing it. Hey, I mean, do it.
Mhm.
It's commercialization, it's free, whatever. But my point is, you probably won't ever see a young black boy working in stock,
Mhm.
working, or a young black sister working doing cashier stuff, or a black man being a manager of that store. It's gonna be a Hispanic owner operated from, like I said, the owner to the the owner to the cashier.
Mhm.
Now, my issue with that is that you don't see any black supermarkets, and these supermarkets are in black neighborhoods. Okay,
What I'm talking about.
what happens is you don't have anything viable that's black owned other than a barbershop, because even the so-called chicken places aren't black owned.
Right.
Kenny Fried Chicken, everything else, you go in there, it ain't black people owning them places.
I
And
know.
but now going back to what I'm trying to do now with for us, the Hero book series is starting from the bottom. And I thank God for my buddy Lisa Benton and Kimmy Pog, because they actually gave me the idea to write for young people, because I resisted at first. You know, and actually my buddy Lisa and I wasn't an argument, but when she was like, just write for young people, write for young kids, and don't, and she didn't say don't worry about the older kids, but she was like, take more stock into that. But my fear was, if I do that and forget about the older generation, that's what they're getting anyway. You know what I mean? But she kind of massaged it to me by saying, no, you can still do both. Just bring it up. So that's when I came with the idea of, like I said, expanding Bennett's life as a child. Because my thing is, we have to get our kids to read. And it has to be. And here's the thing: it shouldn't be bribed upon them. You know what I mean? This is for your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it shouldn't be so. I mean, it should be easy enough for you to catch it, you know, read it, understand it, so you grow with it. Yeah, I mean, because you don't give a baby steak. I mean, come on, you don't do anything like that. But it shouldn't have to be like begged upon to do this. But if it has to be, it has to be. But you hate it for it to be that way, because if we don't have a skill, something that we can work toward, we can be extinguished. Because for the blacks that got money, CJ, at this point, it's really top heavy. Because okay, LeBron's a billionaire, Michael Jordan's a billionaire. That's two men that played a sport, basketball, which by and large is played by millions of people. I'm a sports writer. I cover the New York Knicks. I cover this for them news now.
Right.
Only less than 5,000 people have ever played NBA basketball. In the history of 76 years of basketball, less than 5,000 men have ever played basketball. Now, somebody like a LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, God bless the dead, they played for 20 years. Vince Carter, Kevin Garnett, people like that, Kevin Willis. These people, they played 20 years. So me saying that, the reason I'm bringing those guys up, because that's a spot that was not given up to a new player that come. That spot was like, okay, KG's still gonna play, that's a spot for him. Vince still gonna play, that's a spot for him. Kobe gonna still play, that's a spot for him. LeBron, and so forth and so on. So it's not like fresh guys come in every year. No, it's usually the same core that plays until either they're retired or traded. So my point is, it's not like it's a whole lot of jobs that open up in the NBA. So yeah, so you got some rappers and so forth, entertainers that make a lot of money. Denzel makes $20. I think it's $20 million a movie. That's top heavy. Right. There's a lot of people that are amazing people that are under that don't have the same skill set. Skill set that want that kind of money. And if you can't read, write, process information, and understand how to figure things out in a constructive way, you're making a harvest to make money. You're making a harvest to make money. I'm talking about even doing a trade.
Right. That's true.
Because newsflash, they took away the trade schools the way they used to have them.
Yeah, they did.
In our town, right? In our town, Mount Vernon, back in the day, you had A.B. Davis and you had Edison. I believe it was Edison School. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong with that. When the show comes out, somebody can correct me. But that was a trade school. But actually, it's in the building on 3rd Avenue and 2nd Street.
Right.
You had the shoe man, the old guy. They used to have the shoe shop.
Right.
Actually, behind was Food Bazaar.
Right.
That was a school where people that didn't make it in the high school or
exactly.
But here's the thing, though, CJ, they would learn trades to the point to where they can graduate high school and go work.
Right.
Because there was carpentry, whatever it was, they was able to use things. They could use it, work them hands, go get that money.
Right.
Now, because the trades are giving so much money. I mean, to be an electrician, you can make $35,000 an hour. I mean $35 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
or a low end.
Right.
You can make $50 and $60 an hour as a good electrician. Certain people ain't letting you make that money like that. Not without them being part of it.
That's
So,
what I'm saying. That
trade schools,
yeah.
trade schools are sort of slim to, you got to find them.
Of course, because guess what? There's no way that we're going to be able to be equal to that group of people. It's never going to happen, okay? Because they're in charge basically at this point in time, so to say, okay? So being that they had to do something to stop our rising, because remember, when our people came out of slavery, okay, they came like fighting. They was knocking people out, to get off them plantations and stuff like that. And then they were lied to and told that they were going to get, the 40 acres and a mule and all of this kind of thing. So they knew that they couldn't knock us completely out. So what did they do? They created the welfare system. All right. And what did the welfare system do? The welfare system was where the government said, okay, we're going to give you some money to help, feed your kids and stuff like that. But your husband can't live there with you. It's only you can only live there, with your children. We'll help your family be able to eat and all of that. Okay. And when our people jumped on it, those who did jump on it, that broke up the family. Because truth be told, before that, our people stayed married. We were the highest group of people in the United States that got married and stayed married. Now, until that thing happened, when it happened, it broke up the family. Because then what did you get? You had, now the women had to enter into the work field, and then now she's the man and the woman. Okay? And then that brings all these other kind of mindsets into play, because now you got the baby mama. And that definitely knocked our people overboard with the baby mama syndrome. Okay. So when you got all that going on, remember, not a lot of baby mamas had education. They didn't make it past 6th grade. And, the men that they were pregnant by, the same thing, because the families were not together. And that's not something that we came from, but we were made to think that we were some wild people from the jungle in Africa, and we are just wild, banshee, barbaric people and whatnot. Then next thing you know, they messed up even the rap, the whole scene of rap and all of that kind of stuff, right? They had the guys, calling us bees and hoes, and acting like they gonna commit some type of crime and all of that kind of stuff, and they made money off of our people putting each other down. So I know the first thing we need to do, first of all, we need to come back to who we were. We need to come back to the Lord. Because before we came to this nation, we were a God-fearing people. We didn't learn that over here. They try to pretend like they taught us about Christ. If you read in the Bible, in the book of Acts, it tells you the first Christians were called Niger, which means black. The reason why they started calling us nigger is because the white slave plantation owners couldn't pronounce the word Niger. So when we were over in our land, which originally was Israel, because that's the thing. If you notice, they keep changing our name all the time. The colored people, then we're black people, then we're African Americans. Why you keep changing our names? No. So is because they had something to hide. And they felt like, well, we had left the land of Israel because we got ran out of there. Okay. And then you got other people that came in. So we became the forgotten people. So the same thing, because that curse fell on us for when you read book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, it tells you we were sitting listening to these surrounding nations and the different things that they were doing and whatnot. And those things brought us down. And from there, when we got over here, it just spiraled out of control. We went in slavery, after slavery, baby mama, from the welfare, Aunt Jemima, all of that crazy stuff. None of that stuff was us. It really wasn't us. It's still not supposed to be us, because we are we're God's people, and we're really the ones that are supposed to bring the people back to worship. That's our real duty, is to bring people back to the Lord. Gerald, what's going on with you with the sports here? You talking about you doing a little something with the sports writing. What's going on with that?
Yeah, my former literary agent, but now one of my big brothers and best friend, Cliff Benton, he put me into sports writing by a conversation. He didn't know I knew sports. He just thought I was just a geek as a writer. I don't want to say geek, but he realized that I had a lot of knowledge of sports. So he had me getting connected with a gentleman. He's deceased now, Roland Rogers, that had a thing called Black Athlete Sports Network. And my first assignment was Michael Jordan's comeback with the Washington Wizards. And I've been a sports writer ever since. And I've since joined a few outlets. Hoops Hype, I was with them for a little bit. And now I'm with the Amsterdam News, which is legendary. I find it to be an absolute honor to even be a part of that group. And I write about basketball. I write about the Knicks or the Nets or what have you. And I have fun doing it. And that all helped. Everything that I'm doing, even I'm an adjunct professor at LIU in Brooklyn. I teach sport management.
Okay.
Everything came from my friend, my hero. Everything that I'm doing, even being a speaker, a motivational speaker, everything stemmed from writing this book 39 years ago till now. And so the things that have sprung from writing on that ironing board in a hot summer, during the weekends, on school break, you name it, wintertime, whatever, me writing this book, wanting to get this character Bennett out of my spirit and onto paper where people could be blessed by it. It's been amazing. And I didn't tell you this part. I have it a screenplay form, which I'm gonna tell you about, but I'm gonna hold that until another time. But I'm also gonna do it in a stage play form as well, because I'm gonna do the stage play where twofold. One, for maybe somewhere off Broadway as a musical, but I also gonna do it as a stage play for schools, where I'm gonna have it so schools could download the script and then come up with a a play, what have you. This way you keep the hero book series, the meaning, the not so much the dramatization, but the spirit of it, I should say, the spirit of the hero book series alive by having young men and women act out the parts. Right. And so all things came downloaded to me by the good Lord, and I'm glad I obeyed that call as a writer. You know what I mean? Because it was talking to me. I never do other things, but this writing thing is in me. And like I said, for me to be able to branch out and spread out to do other things, it helped. But also, too, it goes to show you that if you can, I'm going to keep saying this, if you can read and write and process information, you can figure things out. You can end up getting a job anywhere because you can figure it out. You can, and if you have a degree or certification on certain things, you really can go get it. But even without that, you can still figure things out on, even if you have to go entry level and work your way up. But that's the thing I'm trying to help instill with the book series. That's why it's called the Hero Book Series, because I want young men and women to realize that you too are heroes in your own right.
That's right.
It's very important, as you know, as a man thinketh, so is he. And so if our young men and women could think fixed, not broken, or bent but not broken, but I'm about to be straightened out because God ain't through with me yet, and I have a mission and I have a calling in my life. If people realize that they can move, and I'm hoping that this book series and the things that I'm doing will help spread that message. You'll see the characters go through life stuff, and I just hope that it's well, it's been a blessing now because I can't even imagine back in those days, back when I was writing it, that I'll be doing 30 years after I'm getting rejected all those times. So goes to show you when God's hand is on something, a man or woman or anybody can't destroy it.
That's right. Wow, wow, that's awesome. Uh, mm, you got a lot going on with the writing. That's your gift. That's your calling. That's your talent. Wow.
It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. It's been a
Yeah,
blessing.
definitely, definitely. Well, I certainly, um, want to continue to, hear about your books and the things that you're doing because, every time people see you on the show and whatnot, they talk to me about it. They say, oh wow, he's really got some stuff going on there. So people are being blessed by it even on the show to see you on here. And like you said, you are a Black man that does something other than, not that there's anything wrong with using your hands to work and things like that, but you're using your hands to do other things, so that's something that you can do, whether they close down or whatever. They can't stop you from writing. You
Yeah.
get a pen or
Yeah.
typewriter or whatever, you're able to keep it moving, and that's
Create.
something, yeah, you're able to create. So anyway, thank you again for tuning in to the Crystal Jones Show. And like to thank Gerald Hoover. Of course, he's my childhood friend. We grew up together in Mount Vernon, New York. So it's always good to see him prospering. JLHprod65@gmail.com. His phone number, the Hero Book Series. Get those books for your children. I'm telling you, it's needed. Our young kids, male and female, our kids need that. They need to know that we're not some hoochie crazy people just running around like we ain't got no sense. And let's get back together, y'all, and come back to the laws, statutes, commandments of the Lord. That's what's going to bring us out, is us coming back to the Lord, that being the God-fearing people that we once were. We need to come back to the Lord. So God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. Thank you for tuning in. Kwam Yasharala, Kwam, rise up. Come on, y'all. We got to come back to the Lord. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. And I always tell you stay balanced.
Stop using church intimidation, control and manipulation. Jezebel and all them spirits, fall back, not trying to hear it. Go with Jesus, walk in peace. On your pew can sit that beast that we're fighting in the world. I'm that JC Supergirl, Jesus Christ, belt of truth, arm of God, I'm slaying you. Power of the word, two-edged sword. MC Heaven rocks for her Lord. Thought they crept in unaware, didn't see the gatekeeper standing right there. Not getting down with your tactics, undoctrinal practice.